Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Blessed Girl Summer Podcast. It's your girl, Tisha, here where we learn to live, love, and grow. So, welcome to today's podcast. I'm so excited to be conversating with you, just me and you today. We're going to just take a few minutes and just talk about some things that I think are super important to how we're living and our ability to live the best life that we desire for ourselves, right? So today we are talking about always chasing the next thing. Like, are you one of those girlies that just always feels like you got to keep moving, chase the next thing? What else is there on your list to complete? Your list of to-dos continues to grow, but more importantly, your list of things that you need to accomplish continues to grow, right? You're never really feeling satisfied in your achievements, right? Um, and so we're going to dive a little bit more into this conversation about why we may be feeling like we have to chase the next thing, why we may have traits of an overachiever, but also how we can help ourselves appreciate the things that we have done, the value that we do bring, and the people that we are, right? Because it's all about staying present in the moment. And and so that's been something that I've really been working on. And so, I'm bringing you into this world to work on this thing with me. Um, because I think it's important. I think that, we're not promised tomorrow. We don't know what the future holds, but we do know what today holds. We do know what is happening right now. We do know the things that we've already done and already been able to accomplish. And so we want to honor that space as well. So let's talk a little bit about satis the satisfaction of achievement, right? What does that do for us, right? So if you think about it, if we're always striving for the next thing, if we're always striving or chasing after the next thing, then there's an indication that maybe there's something we're getting from that. Um, and so some of us, may find that we equate our value with what we have been able to accomplish, what we've been able to achieve, or maybe we have a fear of failure, what we weren't able to achieve, what we weren't able to accomplish, what we were not able to do. Maybe that we feel like that equates to our value or our identity, right? And who we are and what we contribute to the world being equal to what we're worth. And so then there are some spaces where maybe we're just competitive. We're seeing what others are doing and we're feeling like we need to be doing that, or we need to be doing more, or we should really just be constantly pursuing excellence, that perfection space, right? Where there's always more to be done. But then, and I'm guilty of this one, feeling like busyness equates value. The more busy we are, the more valuable we are. We must be important because we got 50, 100 things that we have to do all the time. We must be important because this one's always calling on us for this or that, or we always got our hands in stuff. So there must be some value that we have. People need us. Mm, let's let that sit there for a little bit. People need us. People are dependent on us. Where would they be without us? Where would, and then I think the question, if we reflect it or turn it inwards, where would we be if we didn't feel dependent on? That's a whole nother podcast. I'll try to stay focused. Y'all help me. Pray for me that I stay focused on this one, right? And so when we try to equate our busyness to our value, then we begin to be looking around for like, what should we be doing? What else should we be doing? Where else should we be? Where else should our hands, be involved in? Um, and then there's also an element where the value becomes determined by what other people say about what we're doing, about how they received it. Was it helpful? Was it good? Was it beneficial? Girl, she always throw her hands in the plate. She always, helps. She's great at doing X, Y, and Z. Every time she comes and serves in this capacity, you know, it just flows so much better. Like, what are we gaining from that space, right? What are we gaining from that? And so we have to always ask ourselves those questions when we find ourselves equating our value or our worth or our identity by how much we're doing, you know? And so then it could be a space when we're talking about always chasing after something or chasing the next thing, always having to have something on our plates always being full. Um, Sometimes it comes from a place of, well, I made some mistakes in the past and I got to correct that. I got to correct those mistakes. I can't I can't keep making mistakes. I don't want to be a failure. I got to keep doing things so that they don't remember what I didn't do well, what I didn't accomplish. And so that's an interesting space to be in too, because now you're continuing to go on this will of trying to prove something to someone else, right? To trying to prove your worth, to trying to prove your value. And quite honestly, we all make mistakes. No one is perfect. And so we don't want to find ourselves perpetually chasing after acceptance, really, from other people, because maybe we feel that we failed them in some way, right? Um, and then in the midst of all of this chasing, right? All of this, we still never really feel satisfied. There's still a lack of satisfaction that we have, which is why we keep going, right? Because we're not really satisfied. Um, and then there's some of us, present company included, who can't take a compliment. It's difficult to take a compliment, and then really celebrate those achievements or celebrate that thing that you've done or those things that you've done, right? Because I can't sit in it too long. I got to move on to the next thing, right? I can't really be present in what I've done or the effort that I've put into this thing. I gotta be on to the next thing. Like I can't let this be celebratory or celebrated. And so where that I feel like kind of comes in, or where I feel like we would want to focus on as individuals is our level of self-compassion for ourselves, right? Um, when we are always chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing, it could be an indication that we are not as grateful or present with ourselves or compassionate with ourselves with the things that we have done and the things that we have accomplished. And so we constantly are beating ourselves up about what we should be doing and that there is more and there is better and that it's never enough, right? And so if some of these things that I'm saying kind of resonates with you or sounds like you, something conversations that you have had with yourself in the past or ways that you know that you feel about yourself, I'd love for you to ask yourself this question. When is the last time you really sat down and really enjoyed one of your accomplishments before jumping to the next, right? When is the last time that you really did that and how did you celebrate yourself? And so while you're thinking about that, if you're finding it challenging to identify a time when you actually celebrated yourself, um, take a little bit more time. Think about the last time you actually celebrated yourself. And then once you identify that time and you identify how you celebrated, what I'd like you to do is think if your close friend, if your bestie had accomplished that same thing, would you have celebrated them in the same way? Right? So if it was for you, you was like, you accomplished this great thing, or it could be a small thing. You accomplished it and you were like, you know what? I accomplished this thing. I think I'm gonna just treat myself to a slice of cake. But if your friend accomplished this thing, you would have maybe gotten her a card. You would have, let's go out to celebrate. Let's get some of the girls together. Let's make a big deal about it. Let's run a chain of like, celebration emojis. Maybe you would have even brung it up a few more times. So, girl, you remember when you did X, Y, and Z because you did that thing. And maybe you would have shared that accomplishment with other people. Maybe been like, did you hear about X, Y, and Z? How they, were able to graduate, right? They graduated. You would be sharing this accomplishment with other people because you would just be so proud of what it was that they had done. And so I want you to spend some time thinking about if the way that you celebrated your accomplishments for yourself is the same way in which you would celebrate someone you really care about that accomplished the same thing. And I ask this question because sometimes um, we find ourselves able to be compassionate and celebratory for others. But when it comes to ourselves, we are very low on offering ourselves compassion. And sometimes that can show up in us just continuously chasing the next thing, doing the next thing. And so there is a book that I've been reading, and it is called The Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook. And one of the chapters, it talks about self-appreciation. And so I just want to share, I got to share some tips with y'all on how we can just be more compassionate with ourselves, right? We can just share more, be in more of a space of self-compassion and appreciation of who we are, right? And of the value that we bring to the table. And so a part of this self-appreciation is self-kindness, right? Um, a part of being kind to ourselves involves expressing appreciation for our good qualities, just as we would do with a good friend. When we remember that having good qualities is a part of being human, we can acknowledge our strengths without feeling isolated or better than others. To appreciate ourselves, we need to pay attention to our good qualities rather than taking them for granted. And I think sometimes taking them for granted can look like not acknowledging them, not celebrating them, not making a big deal out of them because we don't want people to think that like we're being arrogant or we're being boastful or we think we're better, right? Or we just got ourselves on this pedestal and we need to make sure that we're not putting ourselves too high above other people, but we do need to value the good qualities, the good accomplishments, the things that we were able to do. And so being human includes the fact that we have good qualities and we have bad qualities. But it's also a level of self-appreciation that allows us to enjoy the good things that we are able to produce and the good people that we are. And when we honor ourselves, we also honor all of those who have helped us nurture, who have helped nurture and support us along the way. And I think that's so important because sometimes we're thinking like when we honor and appreciate ourselves, it's selfish. It's only about us. But when in all actuality, very rarely have we done anything on our own. So, in us acknowledging the things that we've been able to accomplish, we also open up the door of opportunity to acknowledge those people who have supported us and helped us to achieve um, those goals. And that is not selfish. That's not selfish. I was able to, let's think about the graduation concept. I was able to graduate and in me graduating, it was a great accomplishment and I want to bask in it. But even in me basking in it, there's so many other people that supported me and helped elevate me and, helped me be able to accomplish this goal. So no longer is it just my celebration, but it's also the celebration of the efforts and the caring and the support of those around me. And they may have been family, they may have been friends, they may have been organizations that I was a part of. It may have been the school system itself. There may have been so many other ways, but I get to sit and really just enjoy that I did this. And I get to celebrate myself well. And then a part of that is sharing that with other people, sharing that accomplishment, sharing those things that I was able to do. And so I recognize that for some of us, it is very difficult because we are really self-critical. We criticize ourselves um, more than the people on the outside criticize us majority of the time, right? Especially when we're those people that's always chasing after the next thing, that always has to do the next thing. Typically, we're really critical of ourselves and we're applying um, an enormous amount of pressure to ourselves to overachieve, to continue to move forward. And we're not really basking in some of the things that we have done well and that we've been able to accomplish. So, y'all know I always like to leave like a practical thing that we can do at the end of every podcast to help us better walk into this space and integrate it into the lives that we live every day. And so, this exercise, this thing that we're going to do, is going to be an exercise to really help us center ourselves and appreciate our accomplishments, right? So this is going to be about, okay, we all have goals, we all have aspirations, we all have things that we want to accomplish, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a go-getter. There's nothing wrong with wanting to progress forward and move forward. But we want to make sure that we're not just chasing after stuff because we're not satisfied with who we are and what we have done and the value that we bring. So we're going to sit and we're going to make some space. We're going to make some space for us to really appreciate ourselves. So what I want you to do is I want you to take 2 or 3 deep breaths. And I want you to close your eyes for a few moments while you're taking those breaths. And use this opportunity to center yourself, to settle. Then I want you to put your hands on your heart. Or use something else that might be soothing for you, another type of gesture, maybe rubbing your hands, rubbing your legs, whatever makes you feel soothed, and whatever lends to you being kind to yourself. And then I want you to think of 5 things that you appreciate about yourself. Now, some of those things might be at first a little superficial. You know, maybe I appreciate my hair. Maybe I appreciate my smile or something like that. But I want you, after those 5 things, if you feel like they may be a bit superficial, I want you to continue digging a little bit more and see if you can come up with at least 3 more that feel a little bit more substantive. I appreciate my tenacity. I appreciate my willingness to try. I appreciate my generosity. Whatever those words or things are for you, I want you to think about a good solid 5 of them. And then while your hand is crossing your heart, I want you to think of each one individually and internally nod towards it, giving it your approval. Approve those qualities for yourself. Because while you're approving those qualities for yourself, you're approving and validating yourself as well. It's a great opportunity to appreciate yourself. So I'll give you a few more seconds to think about those 5 things, to nod to them, to appreciate them, and to appreciate you. And as we are thanking God and thanking ourselves for those good qualities within us, we can begin to move our hands and open our eyes. So I hope you're smiling like I am about who you are. You know, I was listening to a sermon, I'll end with this, one Sunday, and the pastor said something so simple that really stood out to me. You know, we often hear how Jesus loves us, how God loves us, and it can almost sound like he loves everybody, which he does, right? So God loves everybody. So what makes me so special, right? Because he loves everybody. He's obligated. But one of the things that the pastor said was, God likes you. Man, that thing touched my heart in a different way because as believers, we can feel like we're obligated to love everyone. But listen, just because we love folks don't mean we actually like them. And to think that God actually likes us. He likes our good and the bad because we're a combination of both, right? We're human, but he likes us. And so I want to encourage you today to like you too. And so there are always things that we're working on improving. There's always things that we are working on bettering for ourselves. There's always mistakes and things that we're making. There's always things that we're chasing after that we feel could be better or we could do better or, you know, it would just be better if we did those things or if we were those things. But I encourage you today to spend some time showing yourself compassion, self-appreciation, and liking yourself. All right, y'all. Until next time, remember that no matter what season you find yourself in, it can always be a blessed girl summer. It's nothing else but a mindset. And so as you go on throughout the rest of your day, make sure that you are living well and that it continues to be well with your soul and you are securing your peace along the way. And for those of you who are just joining us, feel free to share, subscribe, like all the things. Talk to you soon.